Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, welcome to the newest episode of the Cats and Rats Podcast, episode number 45. I'm your host, Kirby, joined alongside, as always, my co-host, Cody Stevens and Nick Levine. We have a special guest here today to break down the Battle of Florida. This will be the fourth matchup all-time in playoff history between these two cross-state rival teams. But our guest here today is from the Rod Pedersen Show and the Cats and Bolts Podcast. Rod Pedersen making his reappearance here as we had him on this past summer to talk a little bit of Tampa Bay Lightning, Steven Stamkos, and all that good stuff. How's it going, Rod?
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me. You revved up for the series?
I'm getting
I'm
ready to go.
I'm revved up now because I've heard some disrespectful things coming our way.
Oh, it's brutal out there, man.
Not a fan of it, but
oh my God,
we'll get more into that.
Insane.
So I know we want to revisit something, Cody, with Rod. Do you want to? Because I want to hear Rod's. We got his before. Now I want to hear his after.
We had Rod on, I think, around September, August, one of those months, and Rod had the hottest take of them all, saying he thought the Lightning were going to miss the playoffs. I love both takes. He loved it. I liked his reasoning behind it. You could not argue. He felt Stamkos' departure was going to lead a big hole. And Rod is Tampa Bay's proven Mr. Pedersen wrong.
And Rod's watched more of them this year than us. So I'm curious to hear, other than just the obvious with, Brandon Hagel having like a huge career year, what Jake Ensel did to fit into Tampa here. But Rod, where are we at now here with Tampa Bay, second in the Atlantic and surging here in the second half of the season?
But number one, you guys come out swinging. Wham, wango, first thing. You were wrong. Kirby's known, I think, what I've done for a long time. My hot takes, I swing for the fence, right? And I'm a Stamkos fan, and I thought it was going to hurt him. It was a double whammy. He fizzled in Nashville, and the Lightning actually got better. And I was on a Lightning podcast last night, plus our own Cats and Bolts, talking about why did that series only go 5 games last year? They're a completely different team, Tampa, this year, than a year ago. So yes and no. But if you remember, in early December, the Lightning were below the playoff cutoff line. I'm like, please miss.
They were struggling a little bit.
I don't want to be wrong on this, But then Vazzy's ass got on fire, and they just started playing. And then come trade deadline, obviously they had discussions internally that they're like, hey, we got a shot here. So they went and got, Yanni Gourde and Bjorkstrand off Seattle. Not to mention the moves they made in the offseason, reacquiring Ryan McDonough, bringing back familiar faces. They are a wagon. So I was wrong, but it doesn't make me feel bad to be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. When you swing for the fence, you're not going to hit a home run every time. Yeah. And I love that everybody remembers that I said that.
You know what our L's are? All three of us collectively. We had Boston first.
I had Boston first.
But no one in their right mind in September was going to say Boston was going to miss the playoffs, let alone finish last in the damn conference.
Yeah.
There's sometimes where, when you kind of get into this and I see people going at guys on ESPN and Fox Sports all the time. Your takes are wrong, stuff like that. When you're making takes every day, a lot of it's gonna be wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. And the thing with Boston, by the way, is they fired a coach too. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, you didn't think that was happening. And then you had to balance that with your predictions going.
Yeah, 2 years ago, the Bruins set an NHL record for best regular season ever. 2 years ago. So that's a pretty fast fall from grace. Now with Tampa Bay, look, I think I'm the only guy on the planet who thought they were going to miss the playoffs. But not a lot of people thought that they were going to finish ahead of the Panthers and challenge for first either. And I had Darren Dreger on my daytime show, the one that airs in Canada from TSN, and he's like, Tampa's day is coming. By trading all these draft picks, at some point, they're going to have to pay the piper. Sort of think of Los Angeles Rams, NFL, loading up credit card debt for the Super Bowl and not really being much sense, right? So at some point, that credit card statement comes due, but the Lightning aren't there yet. Good for them. I'm happy these two teams are meeting in the playoffs.
Yeah. I guess we want to get into kind of positional breakdowns, guys, and we can start at the forward ranks. I kind of dug into the Tampa Bay numbers yesterday. Rod's making me feel better here, but I dug into these Tampa Bay numbers, and it's crazy good. 3.6 goals per game, which is first in the NHL for Tampa Bay. They're, shots per game a little bit below the Panthers. They're around 12th in the NHL, 28.6. Power play, again, top 5 power play for Tampa Bay. Doesn't surprise any of us.
That's not
26.2. Goals this year, 294. A lot of people on TSN, as you mentioned there, Rod, Sportsnet as well, shocked that the Lightning are flirting with 300 goals for the season. So I think this is a big factor for the Panthers here. Who has the edge when it comes to forwards? But you have to look at the top end talent for Tampa Bay. And conversely, on the Panthers side, you've had Matthew Tkachuk out since Four Nations. You've had Barkov, Reinhart getting rests here and there. They've played well. But again, the top end, Verhaeghe, who's had an off year for the Panthers at the top. You just look at the top end talent of the Tampa Bay Lightning, the forwards, you probably have to give them an edge there.
Okay. I'm glad to hear you say that, because I thought I heard you say the Panthers had the edge at forward, and I wouldn't agree. Like I see Kirby, you watch the games, both the Lightning and the Panthers, and you gentlemen do as well. Tampa is a way more exciting team to watch. They just are. Like high-end, high-octane offense. You just said it. They lead the NHL in goals scored. They get rid of Stamkos, and they're still one of the top power plays in the NHL. Like Gensel had a career year. They're even in almost every category but forwards. Now, come playoff time, again, where were those guys last year? I don't know if they were out of gas or what. It's obviously this is going to be a different year. This series won't go anything like it did last year. I'm thinking it's going to go 7. I'll save my prediction till the end of our interview here. But as far as the forwards go, Kucherov, out of this world. Braden Point being Braden Point. Brandon Hagel, really, where the hell did he come from? And part of Team Canada for the face-off, Four Nations face-off. Anthony Cirelli. These are John Cooper's guys. They're all forwards. Studs.
Yep. And just to add there, Nick, because I know you guys want to talk about the depth forwards a bit, but Jake Gensel, 41 goals. Braden Point, ho-hum, 42. Like, we give this guy so much credit.
One of the most disrespected superstars in the NHL.
And the power play goals, too, Coach. 16 for Braden Point, 17 for...
Top 2 in the NHL, each of them.
That's what Reinhart does every year for us, and they've got 2 of them.
Braden Point scored 50 goals 2 years ago, and no one batted an eye. Not one person batted an eye. But when it comes to Tampa, when you talk about high-end talent, they got it. I think they have the best. They probably have the best top 6 in the Eastern Conference as of right now, or at least going into the playoffs, because no one else is going at the rate they're going. You have the Art Ross winner. You have a number 1 center who could easily pop 45 minimum a year. Then you have now they switch Yanni Gourde to top line left wing now, which is something interesting to see. I wonder, that's one thing I wonder going into this series here, because
the last 2 games, I think they're.
Yeah, and and then that second line, Cirelli, Hagel, Gensel, 2 point per game, 30 goal guys, and Hagel with that crazy year, the first player in NHL history to score 35 plus without a power play goal. But my question for Tampa is the bottom 6 now. With Oliver Bjorkstrand week to week now, I've heard some people say, oh, that's not going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt him a little bit here. Because
sorry, Cody.
Yeah, because if this series does go long, your depth is going to have to show up at some point here.
But he's a guy that they didn't play with, right, Rod, too much before he got injured. So they haven't really played with him all year. That's the counterpoint that I heard from the Tampa Bay guest that I had on last night. So where are you with the depth? Because I know Nick's going to react to what you say here, because Nick's really high on what the Panthers have to give depth-wise here.
Oh, well, we watch the Panthers every night. They're a great team. It's funny, we'll get to this, but we had a watch party a couple of weeks ago at the Yard House in Boca, and one of the ladies I was sitting beside said the Panthers don't have their edge. They've lost their edge. I'm like, they don't have Tkachuk. So just wait. Once the playoffs start, that they'll be back. But just back to Tampa Bay for a second. They'll be fine. Again, their top 6 are definitely, I think, better than Florida. Their bottom 6 is very stout. I think we saw it Tuesday night. I was all worked up and excited for that game in Amalie between the Panthers and Lightning. What a shit game that was, man. I almost went up to a buddy's place in Wellington to watch it. Thank God. I almost went to Tampa. And you saw all those guys, they wanted to stomp the Panthers in that game. It was very evident, was it not? And their top guys scored early on, but as the game went along and then the fights broke out in the third period, Tampa wanted to send a message in that game. And I'm like, clearly the Panthers didn't care, because you saw the comment from Paul Maurice today. 100% healthy going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
And and before we get like Nick, just after this, it's very hard because we had some fans like kind of react to that game quite a bit. But at the end of the day, these guys are all adults. They all understand the standings. They all understand what position they're in. It's hard to give a damn about a game where it really doesn't matter what's going to happen. It's truly hard because you're not moving up. You're not moving down. The last game of the year, you're resting Barkov, Reinhart, Forsling. Like,
it didn't mean a thing. It didn't mean a thing.
Yeah, it's really hard for them to give a damn. And that game felt eerily similar to 4 years ago, 2021. We played Tampa the last 2 games of that season, and we blew them out both games. Blew them out the water. Alex Wenberg had a hat trick in one of those games. And
go ahead, Cody.
And what happened game 1? Tampa came out, won that game. Actually, they won the first 2 in that series.
I want to put Nick on the spot here because I've talked with Nick a lot off air. Nick, who are you giving the edge to when it comes to the forwards in this matchup?
Well, forwards, I'll give the edge to Tampa Bay. Obviously, they have Cody said the best top 6 in the Eastern Conference. I think it's the best top 6 in the NHL. I don't think it's particularly
I can't
close.
think of all the West teams, so I'm going to say East for right now.
And you take a look at Nikita Kucherov, and the one thing I will say about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're starting to get more respect now, but like the last, like you said 2 years ago, Braden Point scored 50 goals. Nobody batted an eye. At Nikita Kucherov, I did the math. He had 144 points last year. Somehow, I thought he was better this year. Statistically, wasn't this guy, in my honest opinion, and I've gone to a bunch of Tampa Bay Lightning games this year, and you can just see in person their transition speed, just getting to see that night in and night out. Hall of Fame guys in their prime. Unbelievable to watch. But the thing about the forward, Kirby, I have no problem with Tampa's top 6. I think where Tampa had their success is in the previous years is that bottom 6. I was looking at some of their bottom 6 lineup from a couple years ago. They had guys like Matthew Joseph, Pat Maroon. There was Corey Perry. There was Barclay Goodrow. There was Tyler Johnson, Blake Coleman. Yanni Gourde is back, but you lose a guy like Killorn then. Ross Colton, another one. That's where, in my opinion, I think you start to see a little bit of evening here, because we're going to talk about
Nick Paul.
Nick Paul, who I can't stand. I'm going to state for the record, honestly, one of my most hated player in the NHL. Pain in the ass.
I have no idea why.
I just can't stand him. He's very. Oh my gosh, I just can't stand him. But he's a pain in the ass.
Random guy to hate.
Trust me, you'll understand if I told the whole story. But that's where I think the separation between Florida and Tampa come into play. Now, again, I'm going to give the edge to Tampa. That top 6 again, Kucherov.
But what are you going off of last year? We had depth scoring last year, but where has it been this year?
In the first half of the season.
First half of the season, I think when you take a look at what the Panthers have done, you push guys like Evan Rodriguez and Jesper Boqvist up into the lineup. I think you're asking a lot from them. I mean, they got to combine 27 goals. Erod's going to be on our 4th line. Jesper Boqvist may be on our 4th line. He might be out of the lineup, right? I'm not trying.
% of those goals were at the beginning of the year.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to complain when we got those goals, because remember at the beginning of the year, we were also missing Barkov and Tkachuk. And we needed guys to step up, and guys like AJ Greer and Jesper Boqvist, Evan Rodriguez stepped up during that time. Now, to talk on the emotion front, I listened to Paul Maurice's press conference. We're recording this as of April 17th. So this is right after their team picture. He's like, it's very hard to kind of like, I'm paraphrasing here, to build that emotion, especially down like the last month here. You kind of get the sense they've just been waiting for the playoffs, right? And it is hard because you're going to the playoffs. Health is paramount. And you're playing teams, and we played teams down the stretch here, Kirby, like the Islanders, Montreal, New York. And I know New York was eliminated, but we played those teams that were fighting for their playoff lives. And I think it was a question asked to Paul Maurice. He's like, last year obviously was kind of driven by, obviously the first year was driven by okay, you got to make the playoffs. Second year was you made the cup, you lost. That kind of that was your driving force to get back there. What's the driving force this year? He said excitement. And you kind of felt, and I kind of felt like this whole year, it's like, yes, the regular season was here. We obviously knew with the departure of Montour and Ekman-Larsson and some other guys, Tarasenko, even though he was only a trade deadline acquisition, that it wasn't going to be a smooth sailing in the regular season. And it kind of was up until around Four Nations, the Aaron Ekblad suspension. But I kind of feel, for the Panthers' perspective, the whole year, the last 8 months, all of that was just for this right here, the moment we're about to go into right now. And
I want to go back to Rod here. So pretty much, Nick, it sounds like different off air than on the air, but we're all going with Tampa here for an edge with the forwards. Defense, Rod, before we go into it deep, and Cody, you can kind of cover all the players here and what your feelings are. Rod, anything to fill us in that on Aaron Ekblad since we have you here?
How do you mean?
Just your feelings, him coming off of this suspension, anything that you've heard, anything, that you're feeling going in here, because I don't think we've got a lot there, from a fan base perspective. Being up here in Canada, I think we'd hear a lot more on it. It's been kind of ho-hum there. Came out, had that press conference that you might have been at. So, yeah, just anything to add on the Aaron Ekblad thing. I'm a little hesitant how he's going to come out of the gates.
Well, I thought he was having a great year, to be honest. And as we sit here, now we know why. You know what I mean? And people have written me and said, what was he on? I'm like, I don't know. I legitimately do not know, and I do not want to know. But I mean, he, in the absence of Oliver Ekman-Larsson and the D-Man Montour, he was running the power play for like 70% of the year, right? So I thought he was healthy. He wasn't getting hurt. So the other night, I was on a Tampa podcast. As I said, they said, who do you give the edge to? And I said, well, for sure, Florida on D from game 3 on. Because I think Ekblad is going to have a real impact when he gets back. Kulikov, I like. They talk about Uvis Balinskis around here like he's Paul Coffey. Who's
saying that?
People, they love him. They love him. Clearly, they love him. So
I got a guy, but I won't say.
And Seth
must be not being Nick.
Seth Jones has been very good. Really good for the
I'm
night of his debut.
Thank you for saying that, because people don't understand how hard it is for a defenseman to come in the middle of the year and not just adapt to this system, but to become essentially your number one D-man.
Yeah, and
play meaningful hockey, Rod, where he wasn't before, Seth Jones.
Well, he just, from the moment he stepped on the ice, he hasn't stopped smiling since he got here. Chicago just kills your soul, obviously, and I'm a huge Connor Bedard fan. So with Seth Jones, Ekblad coming back, Kulikov, I really like. Balinskis, while not Paul Coffey, isn't hurting them. So, and
Mikkola, our guy Mikkola.
Oh yeah, Nico Mikkola.
Yeah,
as long as he's not taking clappers at the opposition's head at the end of the game.
I didn't co-sign on that.
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but Mikkola's been steady.
If you like how Ekblad was this year pre-suspension, you got to say the same thing for Nico Mikkola and all the minutes he had to play with Four Nations and coming back from that. I think
sure, but he wasn't running the power play. Nico does not have the hands that Ekblad does, or anything. Different. Playing the minutes, yes. The role, different. But as far as Tampa Bay goes, as far as I'm concerned, they got one guy. He's very good, but one guy on the blue line.
That's interesting, Cody, because I talked to some Tampa Bay guys that Rod probably did too. They were really pumping the tires of Ryan McDonagh.
Yeah, here's the thing with Ryan McDonagh. When I saw him versus us, when we were healthy in Toronto, he struggled. And on the Nico Mikkola front, Rod, have you ever seen a defenseman play behind his net more in the offensive zone than Nico Mikkola?
He's I don't know what he's doing out there. Most
pinches when he
pinches. I love it.
Oh, he's gonna pinch. He's going all the way. But with Tampa and the D, I always go back to this. I always will, because it never made sense to me at the time. I think me and Rod were in agreement on this, and still doesn't make sense to me now. Them bringing back Ryan McDonagh, okay, fine. He's still a serviceable back-end defensive defenseman. Okay, I understand that. But getting rid of Mikhail Sergachev to bring him back never made sense to me. Still doesn't now. Because if they
the Stamkos thing now.
Because if they had Sergachev, I'd be more scared of him. Because Sergachev's a different beast.
Difference maker.
he's a number one defenseman. Let's be real here. He is. And Tampa never gave he came back from that broken leg, and I thought he played fine in that series last year.
That was the only game they won was the one he played in the playoffs.
He played the last two, and he came in, gave him a spark, and they won game 4, lost in game 5.
Yeah.
But the question is, it's just you're running with the same bottom pair that you went with last year, and the Panthers victimized that pair. Nick Pervix, Emil Lilleberg.
I'm Dumba in that equation.
Now, an interesting part of that is, especially with the Chafee injuries, are the Lightning going to go 11-7?
They always do go 11-7.
They have been going 11-7 for quite a bit of time now. I think it started around, I want to say after Four Nations, maybe a little bit after that. That's when they really started to turn up their play. And it's kind of been an interesting situation back there on defense. Darren Radish was running the power play for a lot of time this year.
Yeah, their power play
now
makes no sense.
It doesn't really, it works, right? I mean, and you have all that talent. I guess they want to keep the minutes down for Hedman. But my thing on the defense, I guess, is I think that
Hedman played 23-10 this year. Ekblad played 23-30.
I think with our style of play, I think that there are some susceptible guys there on Tampa's back end that could kind of get exposed. Eric Chernak really struggled without Ryan McDonough. He's come back
2 years.
And I don't think obviously, I think Ryan McDonough, who is probably one of the most sound defensive defensemen, if not the most sound defensive defenseman in the NHL, I think he's helped him obviously a lot. But again, Chernak was terrible in that series last year, and he had to be their number 2. I guess McDonough is now their number 2, but even then, Chernak, when Tampa was winning, was their 4-5, right? And they had guys like Ruda and Shen behind them. On our side, this is actually an interesting stat, Rod. I don't even know if you know about this. The Florida Panthers have not had a defenseman score a power play goal for them all season.
First time since when, Nick?
The first time since Seth Jones was on this team, also the 21-22 Chicago Blackhawks. That blew my mind. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, we started the year with Belinkus. Then we went to Kirby's guy.
We started with Boquist.
And then we went to Belinkus. Then we went to Ekblad.
That ran, and now we went to Jones.
And then we went to Jones.
And it's going
at 24%, and 24% in the past couple of years would give you top 8, top 10. It's not even cracking the top 10 this year, which goes to show you how good the league has gotten when it comes to power plays. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that, Rod.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Send me the link. I'd love to see where that is. I think that's just a quirk. It doesn't mean the blue line, in my mind, sucks. I was just thinking the other night, was it the Rangers here? One of the recent games here. No, it was the Leafs here last week. Forsling scored on a wrist shot from the blue line, but I think it was 4-on-4.
Yeah.
So it's it's not like they can't score, right? It's just that there's just no offense coming from there. That's not really what they do. And the other thing, it's a great stat. I love it. You blew my mind. But I don't expect that to continue in the playoffs. I mean, special teams, though it's an entirely new season. All of a sudden, they could be scoring buckets in the postseason from the blue line. We've seen crazier things happen.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in. So we're kind of giving the edge to the defense here. I do kind of want to start to transition to the goalies. You guys can add another point here, but I do have something for Rod. What is your feelings on goal differential? Because Tampa this year is second in the NHL, only behind the Winnipeg Jets, who I think finished at +85. Again, the Tampa Bay Lightning have another game here, so we'll have to equate all that into there. But last year, coming into the playoffs, Rod, Tampa Bay was a -21 goal differential. They're up there in the mid to high 70s. That's a big, vast difference from last year.
To me, it's no different than I put a lot of stock in a player's plus-minus. A lot. It means a lot. So if they were -20s last year, again, they completely fizzled out in the playoffs, went out in 5 with a whimper. I was like, where's the fight? It was a terrible series. That just goes back to where their team changed when they got rid of Steven Stamkos. And by the way, I got a lot of friends within that organization. They don't want to talk about it. There's something there that they don't want to talk about. And I don't pick at scabs anymore. So they are a different team this year than last. As you say, the power play numbers are up there. But I would think I'd rather be Winnipeg being the only team that's allowed under 200 goals than the one that scored the most, like close to 300. I think defense still wins.
Yep. And on the power play goal front,
I want to add, we're going to get into Tampa Bay goaltending, Cody, but they were only 215 goals last season.
How the hell does Tomas Nosek have a power play goal, and none of our defense does? I never even noticed that. You know what's funny? Like a lot of our defense, at the same token, I would love to see how many primary assists on the power play our defensemen have, though, because a lot of their shots from the point do get tipped. Because we do have some of the best net front guys in the NHL: Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart. Sam Bennett is low key very skilled in front of that net, very low key.
Well, you're not a fan of him on the power play. That's been noted.
Well, when he's the primary shooter, no, because he's hitting little Timmy in row 15.
Yeah,
I did want to say something. I do wish that they utilize the defense for like that one-timer from the top of the point, the Panthers, a little bit more. We saw Brandon Montour score.
Montour had one.
Obviously, Kirby, you mentioned he was dealing with a shoulder injury last year, but I still don't think they utilized it enough. Even when he was here, they were
not part of the system or the shoulder because he had 5 this year.
Right. So it's like, I'm not opposed to kicking that puck back up to the point, having Tkachuk move to the front of the net, maybe have a double screen with Reinhart and Tkachuk there, 2 of the best net front presences in the league, and having Seth Jones ripping bombs from the point, because that's what beats Vasilevsky. And we're going to talk about goaltending now. So take it away.
Next up, I think we're going to our first wash of the series, considering both of these guys. Both of these guys' reputation right here. Andrei Vasilevsky versus Sergei Bobrovsky. The 2 best goalies of the 2020s. 1 or 2, you could pick either or. I think right now I still think Vasi's 1, Bob is 2. In terms of 2020s and beyond. Rod, how are you feeling with 2 of the top 5 goaltenders in the NHL and probably the best 2 goalies in the playoffs in the last 5 years going head-to-head here?
Well, I'm a goalie guy, so I just can't wait for the matchup. The Tampa people are picking Vasi. The Florida people are taking Bob. I'm taking Bob. He saved the series last year. Nobody has brought up since his rolling on his back, Hasek-like stop of Matt Dumba in the second period of game 2 that just a series can change on a play like that. And I think that it did. Tampa Bay wins that game. It's 1-1 going back to Tampa. Bob is the big money guy. So's the big cat. I was writing off Vasilevsky around Christmas saying he's not the same guy anymore with the back surgery that he had last year and everything. But I just think Bob's the money guy. Bob's got the cup. He's still the reigning guy, but it's very close. Obviously, you guys know that.
I also think an underrated part, especially this year, is they both got rests for 4 nations.
Mm-hmm.
And these goalies, they have played the most playoff games of anybody in the 2020s.
Some of the most regular season games outside of puck.
Right?
And they're old.
And they're older, right? So it's like you take a look at that and the fact that now they're getting the 4 nations break. Plus, they get a week-long break here now because the game isn't until April 22nd. Tuesday, April 22nd. So that's about a week. I don't know if Vasilevsky's starting against New York, but you're getting 2 of the best goalies in the game with a lot of rest this year.
I want to share some numbers here, guys. So goals saved above expected, that's the number you kind of look at now. And it's not everything, but Bobrovsky was 27th this year at 7.2. Vasi was 29.2, second in the NHL, just behind Connor Hellebuck. The last 25 games, he was tops in the NHL. So he's been rolling all year, or at least since Rob said post-December, but pretty much the whole season, and then the last 20 to 25 games. But you got to look at Bob's playoff numbers because he's a different animal when it comes to that. 23-24 playoffs, he was a 7.0 goals saved above expected, which was 4th. And then in 22-23, when we went to the Stanley Cup final against Vegas, even with that Vegas series, these numbers included here, he was 16.3 goals saved above expected, which was 1st in the playoffs. So you really got to look at Bob's numbers in the playoffs, but you got to look at Vasi's whole body of work, regular season, playoffs historically. But I do think Vasi is closer back to the elite level than falling off. And I think he was susceptible last year coming off of the back injury, like Rod said as well. So I think it's going to be razor thin margins here.
I also do have some stats. So since January 28th of 2025, Vasilevsky is 18-5-3 with a 9.28 and a 1.96. Sergei Bobrovsky 13-8, worst record, 920 save percentage, 1.87 goals against. So those would both be top 5 in the NHL in that span for goalies who are eligible for that statistic based off games started. That really, to me, is like when people talk about Sergei Bobrovsky this year, you have no clue how many times I've heard, oh, he's old, he's washed, he's only got a 906, right? I don't really look at it like that. And Kirby, I know you agree, Cody. You take a look at our defense the first half of the year, it was a shit show. I mean, it was not good. And over the course of the second half of the season, and I even thought he was good enough the first half of the year, right? The goaltending wasn't the issue. Ever since January 28th, that Chicago afternoon game, he has been one of the best goalies in the NHL. And Kirby, we've heard off air about his process. It's almost like when you have a goalie like this, and the same thing goes for Vasilevsky, the goalie coach, the relationship there, it's like you almost have the goalie as his own coach because they're just so focused on themselves. They got their process down. They got their program ready. They've mastered their craft, right? And I think that's, to me, what I'm really looking forward to this series is just that matchup.
And I think I don't know how we're gonna pick this, guys. If we're just calling it a wash, like
I'm calling it a wash. I'm not picking either one of these guys.
I'm gonna say this. I think you three are higher on the Panthers defense than I am. But if it's as good as you guys think it is, I think advantage Bob. But if they're clearly falling off, making turnovers at the wrong times, I'm giving the edge to Vasi.
And by the way, thank you, Nick, for letting me know that goalies are still weird.
Oh gosh, they're the weirdest people
Every goalie I played with, oh man,
gosh,
they're like a planet.
I played goalie, so
I'm sorry.
That explains it. That doesn't.
But are you Rod, Nick? Just quickly, are you picking an edge here, goaltending?
I'll go slight edge to Vasilevsky because I personally still think he's the best goalie in the world. I know people are going to say Hellebuck. I just think
numbers this year too.
And look at the numbers. I just think Andre Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the world. I think Bob's right behind him. But again, it's like it could depend on which day you're talking to me.
Don't come at me, Connor Hellebuck fans. Rod?
If this goes 7, which I think it will, the one goalie I would want in my net in Game 7 is Sergei Bobrovsky. In the entire NHL in the world.
Like that, because I don't feel so good about if there's a Game 7 in this series. But
Nick, when Nick's stats and what Rod has said has made this take I've said a couple times ring true. I don't think Tampa Bay is a different team than last year. I think Vasilevsky's a better player than what he was last year. And
I think it was stated that he was not bad last year. He was still pretty darn good. He just maybe wasn't prime value.
He was left out to dry.
Yeah. But
I mean, they were awful last year. That might have been
still watching Tampa. I feel like they could fall to the same vices or the same way. If they lose the series, it's going to be for the same reasons.
You're as confident as Nick is in the depth scoring for the Panthers as the Tampa Bay overall defense just to kind of crumble and fall apart. So we'll see if both of you are right. One of you is right.
Because our system is made to make defense cores lives living hell.
I know what our system is, but we haven't seen it now for 2+ months.
And we haven't seen our whole full lineup in 2+ months.
But I would disagree with that, Kirby. I think for
the 3 games that we had Seth Jones
and Aaron Ekblad.
Okay, small sample.
But even when we were losing and it was hard to come by goals, I thought our game, and Paul Marie said it was right. I thought we were playing our game, we were playing to our system, and you started to see that.
I want to get into Paul Maurice. I want to throw back to Rod.
And now we move on to coaching, which is a tougher.
Let's just throw it to Rod. Rod, what is your thoughts on these coaches? I think you're a big fan of both, but break it down for us here.
Well, did you see the athletic survey of the players this season where the players were asked which NHL coach would you want to play for the most? These 2 guys were top 2. John Cooper, number 1, Paul Maurice, number 2. This is, to me, more of a wash than the goalies.
Hey, I'll give
it's that even.
That's fair. I was thinking that.
Look, you talk about John Cooper, a guy who came in when Tampa Bay was going through that rebuild after they got rid of Le Cavalier, St. Louis, was kind of still there, but not the same guy. And Paul Maurice, a guy who everyone thought his coaching career was done when he walked away in Winnipeg.
So did he.
And 2 years after actually no, 3
I
years.
believed in him since the beginning, guys. I
Yeah.
believed in him since the beginning.
And 2 years after he walked away, he was a Stanley Cup champion for the first time in his career.
Do you believe, Rod, that John Cooper was fatigued just like the players were last year? Because there was no pushback. They came out slow in first periods. It didn't seem like John Cooper led hockey team to me. Cody's talked about this. Maybe they didn't have the horses last year, but I really think he did get out-coached in that series, and there was no pushback.
No, there was none. That whole team just was lifeless. So to be honest, why do you think I picked them to miss the playoffs this season? I mean, my enduring memory was them lifelessly going out in 5 against Florida. I thought they were going like this.
It was like Chicago.
Yeah,
in Nashville.
Something changed, and I don't know what it is. But yeah, John Cooper's got a pep in his step. Maybe he was being named to Team Canada for the Four Nations face-off. I don't know what it was, but he's got fire. They all got fire. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this series, but the good thing is we cover both teams, so I know that we're going to be going into round 2 with our show, no matter what, who wins. I don't really like when these two teams play each other. I don't, because the fan bases start to fight, right? You guys probably like that. I don't. I wish we could all get along and we all support hockey in Florida, because the more these teams play in the playoffs, the better it is for the Battle of Florida.
Well, I feel for Rod, guys, because in round 2, he's going to have a Battle of Ontario team that he's going to have to cover for. So we're either right in there with them or see you later. We got an extended summer. But I don't know. What's your thoughts there, Nick? I know you might want to mention some things on John Cooper. So have at it.
I'll say this. I thought on top of the poor performance last year from the Tampa Bay Lightning, I do not think he was impressive at Four Nations, his coaching decisions. Some of the choices to put guys like Hagel and Cirelli, he was playing them over guys like Reinhardt at certain
They
points.
won.
I know they
won.
won.
I can't.
I know they won.
I'm sorry.
I think Mike Sullivan, and again, I think Mike Sullivan did a better coaching job there, and I'll give credit to Canada. Congratulations. Still a little bit salty about that, by the way.
Clearly.
But
they won because of McDavid, not because of Cooper.
I agree with that. I do not think John Cooper, if you didn't have...
One, because of the roster construction.
Right. If you didn't have the 4 best players in the world, and Canada had the 4 best players in that entire tournament, I don't know what it looks like. And again, not a slight to John Cooper. I just haven't been impressed with him last year, and I wasn't impressed with him at Four Nations. Kirby, we talked about that in the middle of that tournament. So that's just my take.
But I don't know.
But I'm still
right now.
And I have to admit, I haven't always been a fan of Paul Maurice, but I do think what he has done, the turnaround for this team, and just the way we just go about things now, his adjustments, everything we were missing in that Bruno series when we got swept, we've gotten Paul Maurice.
Paul Maurice does more with less, and I think that's the determining factor, Rod, in this series when we're having questions about the Florida's depth. I know they've got rest, but the rest versus rust. And then Tampa, Cody's talked about this a lot, their lack of overall depth. If you look at their 4th line and if you look at their depth defensemen, Paul Maurice does more with less.
Well, listen, to think that Florida is going to do the same thing this spring that they did last would be a misnomer, because there's 9 players gone from that team that had their names etched on the cup. So I don't really know what they're going to come out with. I know they're healthy. I know he's been trying to get them to play that crash and bang style that they did last year and be mean and nasty, but they haven't been. So I'm just assuming they will. I guess they're talking about Bennett. What is it? Bennett, Kachuk, and who? Marchand on one line. I guess they've been skating.
No, it's Samoskevich second line now. Okay.
So they have the sandpaper. Will they play that way? I hope so. But this is no slam dunk. They're going to win the Stanley Cup. You guys know that.
But I will say this. I am confident about this, where the winner of this series is going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Stanley Cup Final, because I'm not.
I'm not going that far. I got to see Washington.
Nick, you're there?
I'm more confident on conference final than cup final, but I'm not.
I thought you were cup final. Okay.
I lean that way. But I think certain
things. I just think the path's easier for Carolina, and a team like Toronto, if they end up playing Tampa, they play well against them.
They play. Matthew Nye somehow kills Tampa every.
So then you have to believe in Toronto.
Well, here's what I'll say. I think if we win this series, I think our path to the conference final is easier than if Tampa wins. I think Toronto goes to the conference final. So I don't think it's the winner of this series. So I think Toronto's got I think Toronto's got a lot of eyes on this series. Because I think Toronto.
But you're pretty much just talking Florida then.
But
Florida, no, because I think Toronto, if they can beat Ottawa, which I presume they will, they can have they can have a pretty nice path to the conference final. Because I think Toronto's game this year is different. And I got to give them credit.
You can imagine Panthers fan base if it's strong Carolina, but we don't want to go there.
No.
But you better not overlook Ottawa.
Don't steal my sleeper there. So, guys,
Mr. Minnesota.
Let's bring it back a bit. Do we want to get into predictions just for this series here? Rod?
Well, I got Panthers in 7. That's what I think.
7.
Everybody's saying 6, but I'm saying 7.
You're looking at the guys that
you're not going to like this.
All three of us are the same.
7. I think we have to win it in 6.
Okay.
Yeah. If it goes 7, I'm leaning Tampa.
That's what
This will not be a short series. I said this last year. If there's no way Tampa comes out the way they did every first period of that game last year,
I can't see that.
There's just no way.
One game, couple games, but not every game. Except
not every game.
And I was also more sure of how we were going to play last year. I'm not sure what to expect. Come Tuesday.
And the funniest thing, we keep going back to last year, and Rod said like 9 guys from that team are gone now. Tampa's best player from that series last year is no longer here, aka Steven Stamkos.
True.
Because Point didn't show up till game 4. Kucherov never showed up at all.
Hedman was okay.
Hedman had a big goal in game 5 to cut it to 1, but Florida ended up snuffing that out.
But you got different guys this year in Gensel, Sorelli, to get back to earlier, Hagel. They weren't playing last year like they are this year.
Well,
and I think Gensel replaces Stamkos and maybe in better ways 5v5 as well.
Better 5v5, but is he going to because if the Lightning need a leadership boost, it's probably going to come from Hedman. But is it going to come from Point, or is it going to come from Kucherov if we need to go?
That's true. They don't have Stamkos anymore for that. But if they're in that situation again, I think they're lost.
Because I know Kucherov's an Art Ross winner. I know all of that.
No.
But I never get that leadership vibe from him. I get it more from Point.
Kucherov, and I'd argue Kucherov
has the same player guys since Paul Maurice and
I'd argue Kucherov was better last year. Guy had 144 points.
I don't think he was better. I just think scoring, it's funny. Goaltending was worse this year, but scoring was down.
Yeah, you guys got to look at those numbers sometimes when you're saying Nick's talking about the power play numbers. Scoring's up, goaltending's down. So that's all relative when you start to look at the numbers across the board. I think the Tampa Bay numbers you can look at more, Rod, with concrete image. Florida numbers, it's very hard to do these preview shows because they haven't had their roster since after 4 Nations. So, but I'm looking more at what Tampa's doing, and Florida's going to have to neutralize that.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I guess, gentlemen, we will leave it there. Rod, thank you for joining us. Where can everyone follow you? And let us know what your busy schedule is ahead here.
It's it. Live daily, noon to 2, the Rod Pedersen Show right here, and the Cats and Bolts podcast every Wednesday. We're going live now. It's a blast. Just follow the name on the screen if you can see it through the palm tree. It's always good talking to you guys. It really is. I appreciate it. You guys do a great job, and just enjoy the hockey. I hope we can do it again this fall or this spring.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have all that in the show description.
I think we're going to have to recap this series with Rod because let's be real here. Rod watches these 2 teams closely, and this series is going to be a barn burner.
There's no doubt about that.
Because I think this is the best series in the Eastern Conference, and the best series overall. I'm not sure because I think Dallas and Colorado are right up there, especially with the returning Gabriel Landeskog.
I'm putting Toronto and Ottawa in there. What you just said about Battle of Florida, I think it lives up to it.
No, once they get past Patrick Lalime type stuff, then maybe we could talk about that.
Okay. Well, you'll see. You'll see my boy Shane Pinto.
Yeah, get 0 points and 0 assists.
Over 20 goal scorer this year.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
That's a little bit of after dark there.
But as we say goodbye to Rod, let's hear a word from our sponsor, CanesWear.
Panthers fever is here. Are you geared up? CanesWear in Davie is the place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. CanesWear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at PanthersWear.com. Again, that's PanthersWear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear.
And also another word from our other sponsor at Jeremy Beckham at Next Home Treasure Coast. Hey, Panther fans in South Florida and need real estate help? Check out Jeremy Beckham with Next Home Treasure Coast. It's a boutique service with a personal touch. Jeremy and his team put humans over houses, working hard for you whether you're buying or selling. Ready to move? Hit up BeckSellsFLA.com or call 772-475-5371 now. You'll be glad you did. And follow him on Twitter, X, and Instagram at BeckSellsFLA.
Cody, Nick, we're going to get into our top 5 spotlight players. Thank you for reminding me earlier today because I was preparing for this interview with Rod. Some of our space.
This is our signature.
This is our signature. I kind of forgot about it. So you guys wanted to put it into this episode. So I'm going off of memory here. I don't have this written down, but can you guys add this to the bottom for our YouTube audience as we go along? So can someone record this here? And then I want to add Kirby's picks, Cody's picks, Nick's picks.
I'll put each of our picks on the banner at the bottom.
Yeah. Can you do it one by one as we go through?
Yes. Yes.
Appreciate that. I would like to start, unless Nick, you want to start.
I'll defer to you, Kirby. Go ahead.
We're going Kirby's top 5 picks here.
And we're only allowed to have 2 honorable mentions. And we're also going to have 1 X factor from each team. You can have honorable mentions from either team. You can stack them if you want.
We'll save our honorable mentions for after we name the top 5. So
you want me to name the honorable mentions after with the X factor?
After, yeah.
Okay.
Before the X factors, but after the top 5.
Okay. So let me rejig my mind here. You guys might be surprised by number 5 here. I think if the Panthers are to be successful in this series, this player has to be one of the top players in this matchup, and especially at his position. So I'm going to go with, people are going to be surprised with this, but number 5, Gustav Forsling. Why I say this, Aaron Ekblad is not going to be back till Game 3. You can think what you want to think about Seth Jones, but he's become a polarizing player in this league right now. So, and we've got, a guy I like that, Victor Hedman. He's been on this list for me numerous times in the past in this matchup of Battle of Florida. But if we are going to win this series, I think we got to win the battle at the defense and at the top. So I'm going to go with Gustav Forsling. He's got to be an impactful player. I'm talking a killer on the penalty kill. Might have to come up with a goal or two, and has to shut down Nikita Kucherov, similar to what he did last year. So I'm going to go Gustav Forsling, number 5. This is where it kind of gets tough for me. But number 4, I'm going to go with Braden Point. I wanted to put him higher than that, but I'm a little hesitant how he looked last year against us. But I think no way possible can he look that bad or that ghost-like against us. I think he's going to be a threat 5-on-5, and he's going to be a threat in that bumper position. I'm worried with the likes of Hagel and Point, where they do those little surface area passes and get in behind our defense and get alone in on Bob and be able to score some big prime goals there. So I'm going to go with Braden Point, number 4. Really debated on this with number 3 and 2. We already talked about this in our preview with Rod here. I'm going to lean slightly. He could finish number 2 or 1. I don't want to be disrespectful to him, but number 3, Sergei Bobrovsky. I think this will be a goaltending series. There'll be moments that Bobrovsky has. Can he beat to the level that he's been the last 2 playoffs? Time will tell, but I still think he's going to be one of our contributing members of this series. Even if we lose in 6-7 games, I think Bob's going to be pretty rock steady. At number 2, Andrei Vasilevsky, the big cat. Just the numbers that I'm looking at here, the goal saved above expected. He was a player of the month for Tampa in March. He hasn't lost a lot of games. He's a workhorse, and I think he has something to prove here after short early exits against the Panthers, against the Maple Leafs. This is more prime Vasi now, and I think if you think this series is going 6 or 7 games, I think Vasilevsky is going to be one of the stars of the series. I did want to put the goalies maybe 1-2, but I think this is a player, and you guys will be surprised by my honorable mentions after this. Number 1, Sam Reinhart. I think Panthers, if they win this series, we need power play goals. It's not going to come on 5-on-5. We can't expect just that 5-on-5 faucet to turn on or that light switch to turn on. We have to convert on power play opportunities and make Tampa Bay Lightning pay there. Sam Reinhart is perfect in that bumper spot. He can get to Vasi, shoot for that blocker side above the pad level there. Look for certain areas that he can beat Vasi on. I think Sam Reinhart is the perfect player in this series. I think we need to depend on him a little bit more than the likes of an Alexander Barkov or a Matthew Tkachuk coming off of a long injury here. Honorable mentions, I'm going to do 2 Panthers, Brad Marchand, especially if he's on that third line, and Alexander Barkov. I wanted to fit him into the top 5, but I think almost in this series, Gustav Forsling and Sergei Bobrovsky might be more important than our captain, Alexander Barkov, but he's got to be near the top, and he's got to be right there. My X factors, I want to get these in because I know Nick might have some of these same ones. I'm going with Connor Geekie for Tampa Bay. He's been hot here down the stretch, and I think if Tampa Bay has a chance to compete with the Panthers' depth forwards, it's going to come from Connor Geekie. And for us, one of Nick's guys, Nico Sturm. He's got to reflect of what Kevin Stenlund was for us last year. Not necessarily what Kevin Stenlund was for us in the playoffs. He was quietly steady, but I think Nico Sturm has to bring the hammer, has to maybe get on a shorthanded goal, has to contribute some things offensively for the Panthers and be a rock in the faceoff dot and be able to, so Paul Maurice can match lines, especially on home ice, where we can roll all 4 lines. And that's something, Cody, you talked about. We're going to have the depth advantage. Nico Sturm has to be a big factor there. So
I just love how he tries to raise the ceiling of like Kevin Stenlund, like acting like Kevin Stenlund scored goals for us in the playoffs here.
You have a top 4 seed, you win the Stanley Cup. Kevin Stenlund, flags fly forever.
Yeah, too bad he didn't score a goal.
Look at the Cody just taking shots at me here today, Nick.
Next, so as Kirby's list goes, he has at number 5, I believe it was
Gustav
Forsling, number 5. At number 4, he had Braden Point. Number 3, Sergei Bobrovsky. Number 2, Andrei Vasilevsky. And number 1, Sam Reinhart. Honorable mentions Brad Marchand and
Alexander Barkov.
And his X factors are Connor Geekie and
Nico Sturm.
All right. Nick.
I'd like to pick your X factors a little bit further down the lineup. I know these teams are loaded with talent, but that would be great.
Well, I'll start with my top 5. Number 5, I'm going to go with Braden Point. I know, Kirby, you just mentioned he was number 4 for you, I believe. I personally think, again, in a series like this, and you kind of saw it in 4 Nations, Braden Point, Cody, you mentioned earlier, 50 goals 2 seasons ago, nobody batted an eye. I think Braden Point is going to give us a lot of trouble, especially with that speed earlier in the series. Kirby, you've talked about those surface area passes and off transition. I think Braden Point can really give us some trouble, especially early in the series. I think it's going to be important for us to keep an eye out on that and really, especially with the talent around him, make sure that we have the right matchups up against him. Number 4, I have Sergei Bobrovsky. As we talked about earlier with Rod, I have a slight edge to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I still think Sergei Bobrovsky, again, is neck and neck with Andrei Vasilevsky. And I think, again, if we're going to win this series, we're going to need him to be how good he's been the last, 2.5 months in particular, especially over the last 2-3 years, right? Number 3, Andrei Vasilevsky. I'd argue he was Tampa's best player. I know Cody would say Steven Stamkos. I did not think Andrei Vasilevsky was the problem last year. I thought he was left out to dry. And he gave him a chance, especially those first 2 games in Florida. 2-1 or 3-2 game. One of them was an empty netter, and then an overtime game against where we won. Carter Verhaeghe scored that goal. I think, again, if they win one of those games, like Rodney previously mentioned, that it's a whole different series. Who knows what could happen? But I think Andrei Vasilevsky, the year he had, him and Bob are going to be very close in their performance. Number 2, Kirby,
that was number 3 for Cody there.
Oh, it was number 3.
Number 3, yeah. 4 was Bobrovsky. Number 2, I have Sam Reinhart. Now, again, Kirby, I agree with you. Power play for us is going to be key in the series, especially because 5v5 goals could be hard to come by, especially against Vasilevsky is going to be a top 3, top 5 player in this series. I think that is crucial. Getting Reinhart going on the power play, get him in front of the net, get that bumper play going, having Matthew Tkachuk back is going to be a big help. Who knows? But I think Reinhart, again, he's been clutch for a while now. I know people
clutch goals matter, right?
Clutch goals matter. And I think Sam Reinhart has proven that time and time again. And again, I think he's ready to go. That Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart line also in the New York game looked the best they did all year. I think that could be one of the things that separate the Panthers in this series. And number 1, the best overall center, the best two-way center in the NHL, Alexander Barkov. I just said Sam Reinhart. I do think that first line that they got going with Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart in that New York game, I think that can carry over, especially with the rest. I think it's one of the more underrated first lines when they're playing to the best of their ability. I also think, as I previously mentioned, Reinhart's going to need to be key on the power play. maybe score a clutch goal 5-on-5. Barkov's right beside him. Plus, I think Alexander Barkov, I know we talked about Gustav Forsling in the middle pair last year, Kirby. Alexander Barkov, I think it was up until the Stanley Cup final, who did he shut down? Shut down Kucherov and Point. He shut down Pasternak. He shut down Panarin. Then he shut down McDavid and Draisaitl up until, games 4 through 6. But we're not going to talk about that right now.
Game 6 is not his fault. He was the only forward that showed up in that game.
So
you putting Barkov here, he's got to produce offense, not just shut down.
I think Barkov can produce offense. I think he could go all world. You take a look at that New York game again. Barkov and Reinhart, man, what they can do on the forecheck, hounding the Tampa Bay defense while also shutting down and maybe washing out that top line for Tampa Bay is going to be critical for us.
Verhaeghe's going to have to convert.
Verhaeghe's going to have to. And honorable mentions, Kirby, I have Nikita Kucherov, because how can you not give respect to Nikita Kucherov?
Yeah, I thought about it.
I also was considering the other guy you just mentioned on that top line, but I'm going to go with Gustav Forsling. I thought he was the Tampa series, New York series. He was overall the last playoff run. He was incredible. I think that without Aaron Ekblad, he's going to need to be big. And again, we talk about the defenseman in this series. Panther fans, supposed to be a Norris Trophy guy. He should be better than Victor Hedman in this series. If he is that guy,
if you believe in him that highly,
if you believe in him, Gustav, let's do it. He should be better than Victor Hedman. And I was talking with Kirby about this earlier. Gustav Forsling should be the best defenseman in this series if he is who we all say he is.
And we're going to be successful as a team.
Yes. If he is as good as he was last year, we're going to be just fine. And I think he can do it. I think he's going to be well rested. And I'm excited. I'm confident in Forsling. I think he's going to have a hell of a series.
Here we go, Cats and Rats community here. Here we go.
I will say this about Forsling. Let me just get this off my chest now. Forsling, please, I'm begging.
Don't let him get behind you.
Don't try and do too much.
Thank you.
Keep everything in front of you. When everything's in front of you, you are one of the best in the NHL.
And everyone can do their job otherwise. Bob can do their job. The forwards can do their job. It all works together. 5-man unit.
Now, I know for the X Factor, Kirby, I know you said you want me to keep it further down the lineup, and I tried my absolute best to do that. But without Aaron Ekblad in the first 2 games, this is the time for Seth Jones to show up.
I thought about it.
It's time for Seth Jones to show up. You said,
if I picked him and he didn't play well, I get all the heat online.
If he makes a mistake, can he recover? If Seth Jones can play well this series and Forsling is an honorable mention, the Panthers are going to be just fine.
And that puts less pressure on Ekblad. Well, that happens.
Yes, right? So I think Seth Jones, he's going to be running that power play for the first 2 games, maybe even longer. And he's going to get a lot of tough matchup this series. He's going to have help. He's going to have the Barkov and Lundell line out there a lot with him, I guess. That's key. Seth Jones, we need him to be big. And finally, the X Factor for Tampa. I'm going to go with Erik Cernak. I think this is a guy, and I was split between him and JJ Mosier. I'm going to be honest.
I would have maybe leaned Mosier.
I think I had Mosier written down, and I just changed it last second to Cernak. But I think if Erik Cernak is not good in this series, if we can get him turning the puck over, if we can get in on the forecheck and hound their defense, that is big. Because
he's an X factor. You're just asking him to zone exit? Is that all you're asking?
I think he cannot afford. They cannot afford to have Cernak be as bad as he was last year.
Are you asking
X factors for his X factors because of zone exits?
Yeah, no. Is it zone exits? Does he have to be physical? Like, is he going to?
No, I think he can't be dog shit. And again, I think he has a tendency. He has a tendency to get bullied a bit.
Cody, this is going to be a hard one to grade.
So,
how are we going to grade this? Cody?
Would it have been easier if I picked Mosier?
I don't know.
But let's go to my.
I like it.
Who else is there to pick? They don't even have 12 forwards.
You could have picked Nick Paul.
Oh, fuck him.
All right.
Anyways,
but now we're going to go with my top 5 here. At number 5, I have the blessing of doing this with the banner because I'm the one writing it.
Unless Nick can.
You guys couldn't.
I
use a
can't spell.
typewriter.
I couldn't spell some of these names.
Hey, A+ spelling for me so far. A+. Not looking at my phone.
Okay. We
number
can spell
5.
here for a second if you need a minute.
Nikita Kucherov.
Okay.
If Tampa wins this if Tampa wants to win this series, Kucherov has to be a top 3 player for him. Has to be. Because if he is not good, that offense is not going to take off like people want it to. He is the quarterback of that offense.
He's scary on those slap pass plays on the power play.
Luckily for us, we've seen enough of those.
I know. It doesn't mean we always stop it in the past.
But we stopped it way more than we did in 2021, which was.
I hope we can repeat performance that.
It was close to 100% that series.
I think with Kucherov, why I didn't put him on my list? It's night or day. It's like black or white. Like how good he's going to be versus how much he might not.
But he is their best forward. If he is not playing good, they are not going to score.
And we got to grade him like a superstar here, so he's got to show up to be in this top 5.
Yeah, I think if he's number 5, I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah,
I'm just putting him in there because
he's honorable.
Cody wants to cash an easy point there.
I was really disappointed with what I saw from him last year.
I would give him number 5 last year. I wouldn't even give him an honorable mention last year.
No, he's terrible.
Yeah.
At number 4, Andrei Vasilevsky.
We all got him. Okay.
You would be stupid not to have the goalies in this series. The goalies are what make this series tough. And the goalie is a big part of each of these teams' identities.
You're seeing a lot of 3-2 games here, Cody?
2-1, 3-2.
2-1 even.
If the goals go above 3, I think Tampa's winning. But if it's 3-2, 2-1, I see Florida more often in those.
Okay. I know what he's got coming up here then, saying that.
Yep. At number 3, you guessed it, Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yep. So you have Bobrovsky ahead of Vasilevsky. I have Vasilevsky slightly above Bobrovsky.
I have Bobrovsky ahead of Vasilevsky for a reason.
Okay.
And at number 2...
Oh, you don't want anything on Bobrovsky? You had Bobrovsky or Vasilevsky? Who did you have ahead there, Nick? Again?
I had Vasilevsky, but I think Vasilevsky is going to get potentially tested more.
That's where we can rank him where we're ranking.
That's why I think I rank him higher.
For me, this is a hot take here.
Oh,
and I don't care.
And number 2? Just letting Cody.
I think I know what this is.
Is it a hot take?
Carter Verhaeghe.
All right, not bad.
Okay, not Etu. Okay.
Why the hell would I put Etu here?
That's your boy.
He's my boy, but if he's a top 2 player in this series, this is Jordan Martinook levels of like what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, or last year, Barclay Goodrow.
Oh, don't say that name.
Barclay Goodrow, Andrew Nemhard, like these no names are killing me. But Carter Verhaeghe, this guy, playoff time.
Cody's going to the well here.
You know what this means?
Did you pay up your bet with Carly yet?
She hasn't sent me it yet. Has not sent me it.
Okay. It was over under.
I'm going to wait for number 1, but and then I'll say what I need to say.
Yeah, but I want to hear this with Cody.
Because if the Panthers are going to win this series and the way it's going to set up, Carter Verhaeghe is going to have to pot. I think is going to pot 3 or 4 goals.
Okay, remember he said that, Nick. That's how much it has to be.
Well, I'm going to remember it.
That's fair. 3 or 4 goals, maybe 1 or 2 game-winning goals, Cody.
Yes, I think 1 game winning 3 to 4.
Fair. Okay. If he scores 3 or 4, okay, we'll give you probably a mark for that. Then.
Yeah. So, but at number 1,
I think I know. Is he going?
You think you know?
Is he going where Nick went here?
I think.
Or is he going where I went?
I don't think he's going where either of us went. I think I know where he's. I think I know where he's going. I think he's going number 19.
Oh, he's left a couple names out here.
Wait,
that would be the first time he appears on this list if it is number 19. We are stalling here for Cody.
No, Sam Reinhart.
Same as me. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not gonna put Matthew Tkachuk here just because the injury thing, and I don't expect him. If he makes an impact, I don't expect it to around game 3.
So if this is the case, that means that top line's going,
and that's what I'm betting on.
And that's what I think can happen. I think that you talk about I think we're all talking about the Tampa Bay top six, and I give all the respect in the world to them. But I think what I saw from Verhaeghe lately, Reinhart and Barkov, what I know they can do, matching them up against one of those top six, knowing not only what they could do to shut down an opponent, but what they can do on the offensive side of the puck. I think that's where we gain the advantage with the
even when Hagel and Sorelli, which I heard tonight, are getting Selke votes.
But here's the thing about Sam Reinhart. He is one of maybe 2-3 guys in the NHL that could kill you in all three phases.
Yep.
Power play, 5-on-5 penalty kill.
The all-purpose player, as we call him here in the Cats and Rats community.
And it's funny, me and Kirby 2 years ago predicted that he would lead the team in scoring. We were a year too late, and he's led the team in scoring back-to-back years.
Wow. Who would have had that?
39 goals. If he would have played those other games, he probably would have gotten to 40 again.
Yeah.
Right?
As I've stated before, his contract is perfect.
And I want to give a shout out here quick to our community member, Vincent Scheip. He had Reinhart between 40 to 44 goals on the season. And like you said, Nick, he would have got there. And around 18.8 shooting percentage. I think he was right around that number, if I'm not mistaken.
And 81 points in 79 games. Around that 85 point pace over a full season, 40 goals. We know what he's done on the defensive side of the puck. All-purpose player for that cap. Man, that's a great season to carry off.
Reinhart was at 18.3 shooting percentage this year.
Vince was all over those numbers in the summer. Wow.
Shout out our boy Vince.
Oh.
Always remember wins plus.
I think it was 18.8. Wow, Vince.
But my honorable mentions, you know me, always going to give respect to the defenseman. Give me Victor Hedman. And then I think Matthew Tkachuk could also be an honorable mention here.
Okay. Hedman being an honorable mention, that means like this is going 7?
I think it is. I think it's going close to that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's...
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was 7, but I'm predicting something else.
Yeah. Okay.
X Factors. Here we go. Panthers. Anton Lundell.
I like it. Okay. A little bit more skill-based guy, but that'll allow. He's third line.
Because that third line of him, Luosterainen, and Marchand have been rabid dogs on a bone the minute those three have been put together.
Cody, are you confident having him as an X factor if Marchand is not on that line, or he has to be on that line?
I'm assuming Marchand's on this line.
Yeah.
Maurice said he doesn't think that Marchand, Bennett, Tkachuk would start together if Tkachuk was in.
I don't see a world where that would happen unless we're getting like out toughed or something, but I don't see that happening.
That's not starting the series that way, I don't think.
I really don't see that happening at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I see it might not happen in this series. Fans are salivating for it.
will say this now. Verhaeghe will be on that line more first before Marchand's on that line.
That's what I've said to people, and then you move Mackey up to the first.
Because Mackey, Reinhart, Barkov have shown to work, and Verhaeghe, Bennett, Tkachuk have shown to work.
Yeah, and I know Mackey could work with Reinhart and Barkov.
Just flip those two. I think I go that well before I go to the Marchand well.
Same. That's my third option, Cody. And that's if we're going that far then into the series. Then
we're down like 3-1, 3-2, elimination game type.
Yeah.
But for Tampa, Nick said my X factor earlier, JJ Mosier.
Oh, really?
So close to picking him.
Because if Tampa is going to want to do something this series, Mosier's going to have a pretty good series.
Like all around, Cody, offense, defense.
Just steady and probably add a couple assists here and there.
Okay.
And
he can't get exposed, essentially.
Like, he can't be a walking pylon out there. Like, he can't be fumbling pucks, stuff like that. Like, that's just how I feel about it. And keys to the series for each team. Florida, play clean. Because Florida has this season, we're going off this season only because this is a new team. There's been 2 tendencies that have worried me. 1, turnovers, especially along the blue line. We've had when we were on our worst losing streaks, we had the worst time with turnovers. Secondly, penalties. Mainly stick infractions when you lose puck battles.
We are still second last in the NHL with penalties. We are not a disciplined team. And Tampa is more disciplined this year. I didn't mention that earlier.
But when in a rivalry game, are they going to stay disciplined? That's the one question I always have.
One of the things I'll say, I don't think this series is going to be anywhere as physical as the last couple Battle Floridas have been.
I think it will be more physical than last year, but I don't think it'll be as physical as 2021.
I don't think last year was too physical either.
No, that's what I'm saying. It'll be more physical than last year.
Yeah.
But it won't be. Then again, I can't remember if the sweep was physical or not because we just got ran the hell over. So,
Cody, you want to, like, in 10, 15 seconds, really quick, do a rundown of your list from the honorable mention X factors 5 to 1.
So my top 5: number 1, Sam Reinhart; number 2, Carter Verhaeghe; number 3, Sergei Bobrovsky; number 4, Andrei Vasilevsky; number 5, Nikita Kucherov. And my honorable mentions were Victor Hedman and Matthew Tkachuk. I'm pretty sure I said.
Yes.
And my X factors: Anton Lundell and JJ Mosier.
Okay. We're locked in.
For predictions, boys, let me just say for all of us are Panthers in 6.
People have heard what I said. Make sure to check out the Twitter X post-game, not post-game, preview show, I should say. I want to give a shout-out to Nick Fairbanks.
Thanksy.
Great job there, stepping up for my co-host there this past week. So appreciate that. Make sure to listen to it. A lot of numbers in there. We actually had a Tampa Bay perspective takes as well. And Nick, you might have disagreed with some of that, but no, it'll be interesting.
But shout out to that Tampa Bay presentative. Thank you once again for hopping in with us.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll say my reasoning for Panthers 6 that was not on the spaces. Panthers at 6 for the reason being, I feel like now with the late start time, I feel like we have a better chance for game 1. And I'm predicting we win game 1.
I do like that later game start time. If you are a fan of getting more rest for some of the guys coming back, they get an extra 48 hours here.
You get an extra practice in.
Here's the thing. I think it might be maybe you're able to stay home throughout the weekend. Stay home for Easter with the family and everything.
Fly out.
Then on Monday, they go fly up and they're ready to go. They get a full day on Tuesday to go morning skate, do what they need to do. Or locked and ready to go.
Now, I said we lose game 1 and rebound game 2, but I thought we were going to play a weekend matinee game. That could change it a little bit.
2 better matinee games, game 3.
Yeah, now I don't feel so great about that.
So last year, I remember game 1 at home was at the same time.
It is
1 o'clock.
At the same time, I want to stress, I feel better at home for that matinee or afternoon game than I would in Tampa. So
here's the thing. Tampa's got to come to Florida and get up in a hotel and all drag their ass down to the lobby. And then freaking take the bus all the way to Sunrise.
Oh, breaks down. Oh, we got to stop for something.
It's hot out.
They see a Wawa, they get enticed by it. But the thing is, with this series is, I'm confident in a game 1 Florida victory. I highly doubt we get out the first 2 games up 2-0.
Yeah, I would love that.
If that happens,
if we do, Tampa, something's gone very wrong. Either Vasilevsky's letting in weak goals, or Bob's on another ether.
Or Tampa's repeating their effort from last year.
Coaching.
There's no way, right?
I don't know. That's the question. There's a question.
I'm not going to rule that out 0, especially Kucherov. I'm gonna more say Cooper might coach better and adjust than what we're going to see from Kucherov. I don't know.
And here's the rest versus rust. The rest versus rust, based on what we're hearing, and that could just all be talk. I don't know. Is it right? I think now, especially with the back-to-back cup runs, you've gotten the 4 Nations rest, you've gotten the injuries rest, you've gotten this rest for some key guys.
But
that's needed.
But as stated, but me and Kirby, and us 3, all of us 3 know at playing team sports, the worst thing to happen to a hot streak, a break.
Yes.
So
in Tampa, one of the things I'll say, and you could ask, I should have asked Rod while he was here. They've been very inconsistent throughout the year. They're either really hot
or
really cold. And they could go on 8-9 game winning streaks, and then they'd lose 4 out of 5, and they couldn't keep the puck out of the back of their net sometimes, or they couldn't buy a goal sometimes.
But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. As stated here, game 1 is we're recording this on Thursday. Game 1 is on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're going to try to get a guest early to middle next week on the Florida Panther meeting.
And stay tuned. We're going to be having live streams. Stay tuned to Kirby's Twitter page. We're going to be doing a special, a bunch of special segments, special after darks, maybe even a live watch party. So we'll see what's going on here.
Yeah, After Dark this week's going to be Friday evening when you listen to this, not Saturday, and it will be there for the replay. If you click over on the live tab on the YouTube channel side, check us out there. We're going to give all our predictions. We're going to be joined by our guy, Cesar Lucero, as always, and we're going to work through our bracket. And make sure to join our NHL Bracket Challenge. Make sure to drop me a DM, drop me a message. If you're not in that, Cody set it up, so thank you very much, Cody. We have about 15 people in it so far.
Yep, and if you are listening to this and want to join, the link is in the Tampa Bay, the last spaces we did. It's in that comment section.
Yep.
Once again, the password is Barkov with a capital B.
Maybe we can drop it in the podcast information write-up as well, Cody, potentially.
Yep, we'll put the link in there. But anyway, once again, special thanks to Rod Pedersen. Once again, shout out our sponsors, CanesWear and Jeremy Beckham. For me, Nick and Kirby, we're excited to get this going. Playoffs, best time of year. And unfortunately for me, I'm double screening the entire time because I got my basketball team playing the same day, same time as the Panthers.
Freaking Toronto and Ottawa playing the same
We're
day.
ready to go here. Let's go. Best time of
it.
year. We love it.
But signing off here, everybody. Thank you for watching, listening. And as always, let's go Cats.
What's up, Cats and Rats fans? If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you head out. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And just like always, let's go Cats.